It's that day of the month again, which is called a Saturday, and we're here to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. This is Off the Pitch, the show that comes your way every Saturday here at Camnet TV, and I'm your host, Amos, aka Amore. And I'm not alone on set, I'm joined by one Augustine. Augustine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Amos. It's always a pleasure to be here. We channel the glory and honor to the Most High God for the gift of life and good health. And I would like to wish a happy birthday to Coach De Souza, Green Buffaloes Football Club coach Masao Sotembo. Wish you a happy birthday and hope you enjoy, probably with a victory against Ngwazi, which Charles won't like.
And it was going to be something else. I know Charles wouldn't like that, but anyway, that would be the best gift that the coach can get. Huh? But anyway, what a disappointing week we've had so far in terms of the results that the under-20 have given us, and it's something that we look forward to discuss. But for now, we'll just take a very, very short break, and we'll be right back on the other side.
Oh, we testify, we celebrate. Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned. We testify, we celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Living in a wonderful country full of opportunities for investment in property. Make sure your investment is guaranteed. Are you in the process of buying or selling land or properties? Don't waste your time and money. Contact SGK Property Company on 0966 610755 or 0762 166018. SGK, a company that will conduct due diligence for you before you purchase any property. Go for a tried and tested genuine company in Zambia. SGK Property Consultants.
We saw the ladies participating in the Turkish 4 team tournament, I would say, and it's something that it was a preparatory game for the upcoming Women's World Cup, and the results, I don't know if for you, Augustine, if the results went as something that you predicted, or it's the way that you thought that the results are going to be.
Yeah, at least we saw a different side of the Copa Queens where we are going all out attack. We attack teams, and in the last game we got 4 goals, which is very, very good, and we had different scorers. Now you can see that we've got a lot of strength and depth. We can rely on a lot of players to come in and produce the goods, and it's very, very good preparatory for the girls. The tournament was being played in Turkey. It's a very, very good environment. It motivates the girls playing up there. They have been doing very, very well. They are the COSAFA champions. They played at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations and finished third, so you can see progress. And what we need to do now is that we have got short time between now and the World Cup. There's been a friendly that has been organized against South Korea. Back to back, we play two friendlies with them, and then we will have probably one last opportunity before the start of the tournament to play at least a couple of friendlies. I believe one will be against the hosts. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how the Copa Queens prepare from now up until the World Cup.
We've seen a number of games. I think from the way it go when we qualified for this World Cup, Augustine, FAS has done what they can do to organize a lot of friendlies for the Shipolopolo. And at the just ended Turkish tournament that was there, we were beaten by Slovenia by 1-0, and we managed to beat Uzbekistan by 4-0, and again we managed to have a narrow win against North Macedonia. That's where we won 1-0, and we saw the rotation, Augustine, of players, where we saw a lot of participation, a lot of goal scorers on a different level. We didn't see only one player like we got used to, Barbara Banda, giving us a lot of goals. How was it like to just expose all the players to say, okay, get a few of these friendlies?
Yeah, I think it was very, very important because you remember most of these players, at least 5 of the players were missing at the Africa Cup of Nations because they were not eligible for whatever reasons. But now we have them back at the World Cup, the likes of Rachel Kundana and Rachel Nachula. It was good to try and see different combinations, to try and find ways of playing, especially at the World Cup. It's going to be very, very intense. It's going to be very, very tricky. And it was good to see the young players that we see as future Chipolo players being given an opportunity at this high level. They get to feel the international stage and embrace it. It's going to be very, very interesting, like I said, to see how we prepare from now up to the World Cup, because the association has lined up enough friendlies to try and get us ready for the tournament.
Yes, and you spoke of it earlier, Augustine, to say there are more friendlies that we are supposed to play, where we are supposed to play friendlies with the Republic of Korea and the Republic of Ireland. That's on the 7th and 11th of April and on June 22nd. And looking at the high caliber of these friendlies, what kind of results would we expect?
I think it's all about, I think the first, what we want to achieve in these friendlies, I think, is to try and build a team, to have a style of play, and to just create those understandings, and to try and fill up those departmental areas that we may have. And if you look the path that we have taken, we've played European oppositions, we've played South American oppositions, we've had a few of almost each and every continent, what they bring to the table, because we played Colombia in those back-to-back friendlies. Now it was Uzbekistan and Slovakia. You can see now we are trying to get into the rhythm to try and get ready for these showpiece. We have tested Europe, we've tested Asia, we've tested South American oppositions. Now the girls know what to expect when they go to the tournament. And we have got a lot of experience. Players have played at the high level. Remember, World Cup under 17, these were the
same players.
core. Yeah, it was basically the same players. We had qualified to the Olympics games. Again, most of these players were part of that team which went to the Olympics. And now the Africa Cup of Nations, now we need to try and take it a step higher to the World Cup. It's not going to be easy at the World Cup. We are in a very, very tough group. We have to try and play with a lot of freedom, because there's less expectation from the Chipolo. And probably we do better when there's less expectation on our shoulders.
And so those are some of the friendlies that you have to look forward to in terms of the where women's football is concerned. And maybe just about now, Augustine, just a quick one before we just dive into the under-20 men's team. How difficult is it going to be for Coach Bruce Mwape to come up with a final squad?
It's going to be very, very tricky. I think you wouldn't admire to be in Bruce Mwape's shoes, because he's got a lot of talent at his disposal. So now it's going to be very, very tough for him and his technical bench to try and come up with a final team that will go to the World Cup. A lot of players will be disappointed. He needs to try and be brave and pick the very, very best that are available and that are performing. If you look across our league, the Women's League is doing very, very well. You look at the competitive nature that it has gotten now to the levels now. It's different. 10 years ago, I used to see Red Arrows beat teams 26-0. You do not see that now. They've become very, very competitive. The scorelines at least are reducing. GBFC, yes, they are very, very dominant, but they are being given a good run for their money. You can see Zesco ladies, they are trying to give their all. There is a lot of quality in our league, and we have got a lot of quality that we've sent abroad to play in international clubs. Turkey, we've got players in Turkey, we've got players in Spain, China. So you can see now we are no longer an underdog when it comes to women's football. Now we are leveling the playing field, and we have got a very, very good, formidable side. It will be very, very difficult for Bruce Mwape with his team to try and find the very best, the cream de la cream to take to the World Cup.
Anyway, we're not hoping for the best. Let's hope by the time we'll be playing our last friendly game, we'll be able to say that this is the final squad that we have. But anyway, we saw our men's national, under-20 national soccer team crumbling to a 2-goal loss against Gambia. And we saw Coach Chisimbewe giving a press after that game, and he had this to say. If we can just have that video where Coach Chisimbewe had a presser after the game.
Feel it's a painful loss today, I feel we started so well the first half of the game. I think we managed Gambia so well. We planned for Gambia so well. We knew that if we give Gambia spaces, they're going to play. But we managed to close them. We managed even to, I think, to command even the first half of the game. In the second half, I think we made a lot of turnovers. We made some mistakes which really cost us into the second half of the game. I think it was just about a loss of concentration and mistakes that we caused that has made us to lose this game. I think the Tunisia game is going to be again another tough game because both teams have got Gambia, Tunisia have got a point, we have got a point. So, and this is the game that both teams will look into wanting to win. So I think the most important thing again, we just need to stay focused. We just need to prepare again for Tunisia and be able to apply ourselves and be able to maximize the points if we are to stay in this competition. I think our next preparation, I know this is, like I said earlier on, it's a game that we need to maximize the points against, not a game that we need to draw points or draw. I think going into this game, we just need to go for a must win for us to advance to the next stage. I feel, like I said again, we made mistakes from the back. So the most important thing, we need to be solid at the back, not to allow goals. And again, we need to be clinical up front. I think we had numerous chances in the game that I feel if we would have scored, I think it was going to be a different result. So the most important thing, I think we need to be solid at the back to ensure that we are not allowing easy goals or making unnecessary mistakes. Otherwise, going into the Tunisia game, we just have to prepare and solidify the defense. Then we work even on the creating of chances and being clinical at the goal.
It is a painful loss. Those are the words that Chisimbewe said. It was a painful loss, but as it stands, we still have a chance depending on how the results are going to be. If we manage to beat Tunisia and the other game goes the other way around, which means that will give us 4 points and we'll be able to qualify to the next group. Augustine, the game that we played yesterday night, we saw us being beaten by Gambia by 2-0. And it's something, if you remember, Angorapson predicted in a different way. And it's not going the way that Angorapson predicted. Because Angorapson predicted to say we are going to have the first game we're going to draw. And then the second game we're going, I don't know if it's to win. And then we are going to lose the last game. Yeah. But it's in a different way. But for me, personally, to say the truth, I wasn't expecting that result that we got last night.
Yeah, I think if you look at the boys that we have on the table that went to the Africa Cup of Nations, I think there's been a lot of talk around Zambia regarding the selection process. Why are they taking a lot of players from Atletico, Lusaka and Shameo? I think where we stand as a country, it's very, very difficult for the selectors to try and come up with a formidable side at this age group. I think I would challenge everyone who is watching there to try and give me just 10 names of under 20 players that are playing competitively now in our Super League. Just 10 names. I think you struggle. You look at, we have got our starting lineup yesterday. We have got Jaban in goal. He's from Red Arrows. Jaban has never played the game for Red Arrows. He's yet to make his debut. They've got Amon Chulu and Lombe Mtale as our fullbacks. How many games has Lombe Mtale played for Power? You hardly see him even in the team. Amon Chulu, yes, he's been playing for Nkana, but he hasn't played a lot. Lyson Tole is back. He's occupied that spot again. Happy Siku centre back. He's played a couple of games for Red Arrows. He's not a regular. Gift Mpande, he's coming from Lusaka, Atletico Lusaka, probably is the one who is having the most game time in that back line because he's playing week in, week out for Atletico Lusaka. Dominic Kanda in central midfield, he's coming from a Division 1 team in Shameo. He played the entire first half of the season for Shameo, playing Division 1 football. Ahead of him, he had Julius, Atletico Lusaka. Bulaya was probably the only one who has been getting a lot of game time at the highest level, because Bulaya is playing for Green Eagles. And probably Peter Chkola. Peter Chkola was playing for a under-19 team in Croatia. Now he's moved to Cadiz. But you can see the spark, you can see the confidence and the belief he has in him. People are trying to compare this team to the under 2017 team that went and won the Africa Cup of Nations. If I can take you back a little bit, Amos, the team that won the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations, the likes of Enoch Mwepu, Patson Daka, Mangani Banda, you look, where did they come from? Under 17, under Chris Kaunda, under 17, they had qualified to the Africa Cup of Nations, and they finished with only 1 win and lost 2 games in that tournament. They drew lessons from there. Patson Daka was the skipper of that team under 17. He went to the under 20 Africa Cup 2015. Patson Daka, Mangan Banda, they were part of the team which went and finished bottom of the group with 0 points. Okay, 2015 we went to the Africa Cup of Nations, 0 points. People are saying this is the worst team, but that's far from being the truth. 2015 they went and finished with 0 points. Then 2017, Patson Daka, Enoch Mwepu, Mangani Banda, they had a few of a tournament at international level, junior international level, under 17. So they knew what they were expecting at under 20, and they knew how to handle the pressure. You look at the players that we had Solomon Sakala, regular in the Super League. Boyd Msonda, regular for the Super League. Shemi Maembe, regular. He was even playing CAF Champions League against El Ali, a under 20 player, regular at Zesco United. Mangani Banda, he was the second choice at Zanaco, a team which was fighting for league titles and etc. Patson Daka, he had played 3 seasons in Zambia for Power Dynamos and for Changa Rangers, and he had moved to Red Bull Salzburg. Enoch Mwepu moved from Power Dynamos, wasn't getting a lot of game time, came to Napsa Stars, and he was their main man. Fashion Sakala had moved from Changa Rangers, Zanaco, and he was in Russia at that time. So you can see Conlai Luchanga, likewise, Lusaka Dynamos, and he had moved to Israel. Emmanuel Banda was playing from Changa, he moved to Portugal for Esmoriz. You can see the entire team had played at the highest level before they went and played at the tournament. They had a lot of experience, they knew what to expect. It's different from these boys. These boys haven't been playing for big clubs in Zambia. We have only one foreign player in the team, which is Peter Chkola from Cadiz. And you want to compare this team to the team which won the Africa Cup of Nations. I think it's very much unfair. People have been crying out loud for the selectors to try and pick players from every province. I think, to me, yes, there are a lot of talent out there, and there's a lot of raw talent in maybe rural areas, but you need to try and polish up that talent. Believe you me, Amos, out of 100 attempts, you only have one Edward Chirufya who will come from Mpande Youth and come and shine at the very, very big stage. It's very, very difficult. We've seen players that have been tried and tested coming from these rural areas, and they come to this big league and they fail. Just to borrow Emmanuel Amuniki's words, he says, you might be a lion, I'll pick Solwezi, you might be one lion in Solwezi, and when you roar, everyone hears. And then you come to Lusaka, you realize there are 500 more lions here.
That roar more than you.
Exactly. And we've seen this with players, they come here and then they go missing. So it's very, very difficult. I think where we are as a country, I think our biggest problem has been our structures. This is one thing which has really let us down. It's not about this under 20 going and failing to perform there. It's about how do we train players. Because at the age of 15, at the age of 14, I prepare my players in a certain way. They'll cope with the pressure at that stage. You cannot start teaching boys at under 20. No, you can't. They need to be psyched as they are growing up, what to expect at these big tournaments and how to carry themselves when they reach there.
And I think mostly, if you've noticed, Augustine, we've been speaking of this mostly to say grassroots matters.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll just give an example of Musiala. How old is that lad? I think he's 17 or 18. Exactly. But look at the way he's tormenting teams in the Bundesliga, and look at how he performed at the World Cup. You see, and this is the same point you are saying, to say it starts from the beginning. Nurture someone from the start. Don't nurture someone is at 19, you want to nurture them. Okay, this is the combination. This is how you gel in. For me, I feel like grassroots soccer is very important.
Musiala, it was probably the background education
and the process.
He was trained for this stage. He was being prepared. When he faces difficult moments, challenges, he will know how to maneuver his way. But now is that when we're facing these challenges, it's now the coaches now are trying and tell these boys what to do because they were not trained for this particular stage. You look at what in football, when the players cross that dotted line, coaches have little influence. They have little influence. I think to me it's all about the upbringing of these players. They grab onto what they have been learning throughout their career. When things go hard for them, they'll grab onto that. When the game is tough, they'll grab onto what they have been taught throughout the year. I think if you look at, you saw players like Nathan Sinkala, pressure game in against Ivory Coast. What was he doing? Something that he has grown up doing. Let me keep it simple. I'll keep the ball 2 touches.
It ends there.
It ends there because he was trained in that way. We were doing things in 1980 which worked, and we think they can work even now. I think that's the biggest problem. I think our biggest shame is that our youth structures are very, very poor in Zambia. If you look at teams that are doing well across the world, they've invested heavily in youth. I can challenge everyone who is watching out there. We look at the Super League, 18 teams in the Super League. How many teams have got players that have grown through their ranks, their youth system up to the main team? I think you look at Baby Power Dynamos, they've got probably 5. Joshua Mtare, John Soko, they've got Regan Temple. You look at Power Dynamos, they always try and tap from their
and in fact,
teams.
the question, Augustine, comes back to say, is there a competition for these youth teams, for these clubs that we have?
There's nothing. That's the biggest problem.
I remember back then, if I'm not mistaken, back then we used to have Red Arrows and Young Arrows. But okay, it wasn't like it was a youth for Young Arrows.
It was a club, yeah.
But it was a club on its own. And then at some point we saw Red Arrows coming up with a youthful team. You know, for me, I felt like it was going to be very easy if it was going to be done in a way that each team, it's a mandate, have a youthful team that opens up the game to say is it a curtain laser?
Yes.
Where if Red Arrows is playing against Zesco United, let their youthful team start. Let them play at 13.
Yeah, I think we always see this trend in Europe.
Yes,
when Manchester United went to play Barcelona,
you hear that
their youth team played against Barcelona. I think it's how we've structured our football, because when you look at it, Amos, these teams, yes, they do have youth teams, but is it those youth teams are just there on paper to try and have the club licensing, to try and complete all the requirements club licensing has, but are we putting in investments in this youth team? Look at the country as Zambia. We struggle for scorers. What are you doing when you have got youth teams? Because they have to be educated. I'll tell you one thing at Mamelodi Sundowns. Mamelodi Sundowns will identify a place. Okay, we're struggling in such an area, and then they'll tell their youth coaches, try and find us a player who can fit in this. And once you do that, you get a bonus for finding that player. Polish up this player, train them to be in a certain way we want them to play. And we do not do that here in Zambia. It's just there for the books to try and say we have got youth teams. How many have got youth teams and get players from there? None. I think Power Dynamos and Ghana, probably they're the two sides that I've seen. Zesco, yes, they do have.
And I think Zanaco at some point were part of such a set.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is have a competitive youth league. If it's under 21 youth league, it has to be very, very competitive. For those players that are not playing for the senior teams, they can play for the reserve league. You need to have a competitive reserve league whereby these boys are not getting game time at probably Zesco United. Zesco United are challenging for the league title. It is difficult for them to try and give chance to under 20 players. You try and find a way where they will be competitive, probably in the reserve league. We need to try and polish up our structures and be very, very brave in terms of how we approach. I think the under 20 have showed a lot of weaknesses.
And where we are missing it.
Exactly. They have exposed us as a country that we are very far away from what we think we were. I think the problem is that we always think Zambia is a powerhouse in African football. That's a very, very big lie. I think Sylvain was right to say we are not a footballing nation. These are the results. I think it wasn't necessarily talking about the talent, but it was talking about how we structured our football. That's the reason why he says we are not a footballing nation. We need to try and have competitive academies across the league. If maybe probably Football Association of Zambia can have 10 academies across. Each province has one very, very strong academy that will be picking up the best players in their province, and then they will be coming to compete probably at the very same stage where everyone will see the talent, and then the coaches may have a pool to pick from. Airtel Rising Stars, it worked for us, then we abandoned it. Now we are finding it hard to find top players to try and play for the junior teams. The under 20, they have been very poor in their performances. We are more reactive than being proactive. When we went one goal down against Benin, that's when you saw the boys now trying to get out of their shelves and trying to attack the game, and then they got the equalizer. In yesterday's encounter, first half wasn't very, very good. We were very much outplayed. The second half, we came out a little bit positive. We wanted to play more attacking, and then they found spaces and they capitalized. You see the difference. They have got players from Bayern Munich, they have got players from Cape Town, and we have got players from Atletico, Chameo. You can see the gap is very, very huge.
And I think, Augustine, if you've noticed one thing, their players, I'll give an example of Ivan Skangwa. You know, these are players that have been trading their plight, maybe outside the country. And there are people who've opted to say, let me invest in a club in Zambia. And if you've seen the equipment that those guys are using, I'll give an example of Chameo Academy. I think they post some videos mostly on social media. Their training facility, we see how it is. And when we compare those training facilities, some of these clubs that are playing in the top leagues here in Zambia don't even have such.
Exactly.
But why don't we learn something to say, okay, what do these guys see, which they come here and invest in?
Yeah.
I think there is a lot that we need to learn from people like the way Ivan Skangwa is investing in the club.
So what you need to see is that Amos, when you look at opportunities, football is it's not just football being played 11 versus 11. It's also a business opportunity.
Yeah.
Ivan Skangwa and his team have understood that philosophy. We may develop talent. We need to invest. We need to sacrifice. Invest a lot of in infrastructure. They invest even in players so that one day when they say on these players, it will be business for them. But he's looking at the bigger picture to try and improve Zambian football. Because Ivan Skangwa is well traveled. He's been around the world and he's seen how things are done in Europe, how important grassroots football is. That's why his focus has been to try and go grassroots football, try and tap talent, try and build talent, try and give them the best facility Ivan Skangwa never had. Yeah. And he's doing that in a very, very good and professional way. He has got people who he believes can do the job. He's not the one who is in charge of overseeing everything. No, he has got people in place. He has got the right structures to try and see that his team goes forward. Same applies to Atletico Lusaka. In as much as, yes, there might have been 5 players and people think that's too much from one club which is not doing well in the National League. But they've got very, very good structures, very, very good program for these young boys. They are educating these young boys how to play football, not just in Zambia, but they're training them for the biggest league in Europe. For example, they've got one boy in young boys, Miguel Chayowa. He would have been part of this team if not for the FIFA rules that this is not a FIFA window and
he
the
can't
boys are
be
not
released
allowed.
by the
So you can see that we are very, very far as a country. We are very, very far in terms of getting back to the highest level. We need to try and invest in youth. We need to have a short-term plan, medium-term plan, and a long-term plan if we need to attain our goals and get to the levels where we think we are. We do not have to be emotional. Come on. People are being just too emotional. Some of them have never even watched these boys play in the league. And then we expect to have miracles. I think
we've seen, just to conclude, guys, I think we've seen a lot in terms of social media. People saying a lot of individual brilliance was portrayed in these guys, the under 20 guys. And it's pressure, you see. For them, it's more of, they feel like it's a stage whereby they have to really expose their talent, but maybe they are overdoing it.
Yeah, it could be that I think every boy has looked at this window to say this is the biggest window because you've got a lot of scouts there that are watching you, and probably they may try and be a little bit individual and go out of the team structure in a sense that the coach has structured in a way how you have to play, then you want to play in a certain way to try and impress. But all you know, these boys are still learning. Developmental football is not about winning and being champion, it's about learning. How many times has Africa beaten Europeans at under 20, under 17 level, winning the World Cup? What have we done at the senior level? Nothing. Because the Europeans, they go there, they learn. And 4 or 5 years later, you see them winning big things. There was one photo which was circulating some months ago. Tony Cruz with a couple of Nigerian players. He was third best player at the World Cup. Tony Cruz, under 17, third best player. We have never heard of those two Nigerians who are number 1 and number 2. But Tony Cruz went on to be a European champion, world champion, won the UEFA Champions League. So you can see that the Europeans do not look at this age group and put pressure. We want results, we want results. All they want to see is players developing. What have our boys learned at this Africa Cup of Nations that will help them in the near future in their careers? If we can try and see things in that perspective, we will be a better footballing country. Let's invest in youth. Let's have patience. Let them develop. Let them make mistakes. This is the only time they can make mistakes and grow. We do not want to see a situation whereby players are performing at this level. The boys that won the under 20 Africa Cup of Nations 2017, they have failed to qualify as to 2 Africa Cup of Nations.
So what
was that success all about when you cannot do anything at senior level?
Let's just take a look at the table and see how our chances are with the under 20, where we are bottom of the table and we are playing Tunisia, who is also on a point, and Gambia will be playing Benin. So our chances, Augustine, stands if Gambia manages to beat Benin. That's if Gambia would want to leave the group with a 100% record. That's the only chance that we have. But we are looking at playing an Arabic team, Augustine, which is in Tunisia. And you know how it is with Zambia as we play such teams. So we still have chances, though. The chance is still there, and it's always about calculators for us. But otherwise, as it stands, if Benin manages to beat Gambia, meaning our chances are it's finished.
Yeah. So I think we have got slim hope. It's not in our control. All you can do is play the opposition we have in front of us, which is Tunisia, and try and get a better performance from that game. I think the boys will need to be more brave now in this encounter. I think they've been poor in the previous 2 games. They need to be more brave when they play Tunisia. They need to try and play with freedom. They play good football. I've seen these boys play good football. I think they just need to try and forget about the tournament and think about, because the biggest pressure from these boys is that they're thinking too much that this is the Africa Cup we're playing. I think if you can just ease the pressure, it's just a normal football match. Express yourself the way you do for your clubs. We might have a chance against Tunisia and get a very, very good result, and probably hope results go our way in the other game.
And so that's what we have in terms of the under 20 games that we have played so far, where we managed to draw against Benin and we were beaten by Gambia. So we are hoping we'll be able to beat Tunisia. That's in the last game. And now, just switching our attention, Augustine, to the MTN Super League. Today we have got some exciting and interesting games that we have. At 15 hours, we've got Forest Rangers who will be hosting Ghana. The game will be played at the Arthur Davis Stadium, and it will be live as well on Super Sport. And FC Muza will be hosting Zesco United. Augustine, before I go further, let's look at this cracker of a game. FC Muza hosting Zesco United.
Big encounter. Muza, in recent weeks, they have found it hard.
Let's try to pick a call, I think, Augustine. Hello? Hello? I think we've just lost that caller. Augustine, you can proceed.
Yeah, I think if you look at Muza, they are now finding it a little bit hard to try and win games. The second half of the season, it's always competitive, and these boys lack experience, and it's been showing in the results that they've been getting recently, draws and defeats. They're coming up against a Zesco United side under George Luandamina, who have slightly improved. They look a better side now with Lazarus Kambore getting them the goals, and they're coming up, traveling to Mazabuka. It's always a difficult place to go there. Forest Rangers went and lost there and beaten one when they played Muza. It's not an easy venue when it comes to these big teams. Zesco United, we expect a lot from Zesco United. The investment they made in January, they brought in Dennis Nya, from Nigeria. He was part of the Nigeria under-17 team which won the World Cup, and now he's playing in Zambia. That speaks volumes about African football when it comes to junior level. He's played for Zesco United. They've got Colin Sikombe. He looks a little bit different under George Luandamina. Can he be the Sikombe which helped Napsa Stars qualify for continental football. If he can replicate that form, he will be very, very good for Zesco United. Musa have been missing the services of their main man in Andrew Peary in recent weeks. I think he missed the game against Changa Rangers. I don't know if it's through injury, but he's the guy who will get them the goals. He's Mr. Reliable. Andrew playing up top. They've got a very, very good squad, and they'll challenge Zesco United, but this encounter, I think it will just end in a draw.
Heading on, this is a game that will be a very, very, very huge game because it's somehow decisive. When if Zesco manages to beat FC Musa, Zesco will find themselves in the top 4, depending on the results that Red Arrows will have. And if FC Musa again manages to beat Zesco United, they will go to 40 points, which will be about 6 points. And other games that are being played, Augustine, they're just being displayed there on our screens. We've got Green Eagles who will be hosting Beautycon, Lumwana Radiance who will be hosting Zanaco, and Napsa Stars hosting Kansanshi Dynamos, Nkwazi hosting Green Buffaloes and Prison Leopards, hosting Shanga Rangers, and Red Arrows hosting Chambeshi FC. So those are some of the fixtures, Augustine, that we have today.
Yeah, I think men in uniform meeting at Edwin Mboela in Green Buffaloes, visiting Nkwazi. It's going to be a tricky encounter. GBFC left it late to salvage a point against. They got a point from that game. Nkwazi, I think they need a result against GBFC because time is running out, games are running out. They need to survive the drop. Also, Mutapa has gone there. He's tried to stabilize the ship, but it's very, very difficult. Results, there have been ups and downs. We just hope to see a cracker of a match this afternoon. They fresh from beating Zanaco at Sunset Stadium. They will be bubbling with confidence coming into this Lusaka derby against GBFC.
In Ghana, it's another game that we will see. We've seen Ghana of late performing some wonders, where they stand at position 11 with 31 points, and we've got Forest Rangers, who is on second position with 41 points. They are separated by 10 points.
If you look at Ghana Football Club, they're breathing easily now. Their last 5 games, they've drawn 2, won 2, and lost 1. I think that's a reflection of a team which is at least getting back its confidence. And on the other side, Forest Rangers, 3 wins in the last 5. They lost against Changa Rangers and Changa Stadium. They would love to get back to winning ways because Power Dynamos will run away with a league title if Forest Rangers do not get their act right. Coming up against Ghana, it's always a tricky encounter when these two teams side. There's a lot of history between them, and the advantage that Ghana has is that this game will be played in Kitwe, and they do have a very, very big following. They may just go there.
It will be more of Pachirat.
Exactly, they may just go at Davis Stadium and fill up that stadium and support Nkana Wayero. Probably we might see even Power Dynamos fans joining in supporting Nkana Football Club because they want Forest Rangers to drop points, and it's going to be an interesting encounter. Forest Rangers being played in Kitwe, they need to try and show that they have got the character to win the league title. These are the sort of games that they need to try and show up and perform. They've got Luambo Moyela. He's eyeing that golden boot. If he scores a goal to this afternoon or in the coming games, he becomes the leading scorer. Victories have been very, very difficult for them, but the good part is that even teams around them, they keep dropping points. So Power Dynamos look like a side that will go all the way and win the league title, because in the second half of the season, each teams are fighting for different reasons. Some are fighting to qualify for continental football, some are fighting to win the league title, and others are fighting to survive the relegation zone. So each game it's very, very difficult in the second half of the season. And Power Dynamos, they might just be slowly but surely closing on that league title. They've brought in Andy Boela. He's looked very, very sharp for them, to be fair. He's on 9 goals. He might be one of the people that will have a say on that golden boot. If he can get them 6 or 7 win the league title. And they're coming up against an Kawaya's team who look very, very different under Numba Mamba. They've played some good football. He's only lost 1 game away at home to Red Arrows. He will try and get something at the Arthur Davis Stadium against the league leaders, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I see Power Dynamos winning this one and closing on that league title.
Anyway, let's just look at some of the games, Augustine, that are being played that's in the Fazis National Division League. At 13 hours, we've got Zesco Malaiti, who is hosting Mutondo Stars. That will be at the Unilas Silver Race. And at 15 hours, we've got Aquila Stars versus Young Green Buffaloes, and it will be at the Unilas. And we have Mufulira Wanderers versus Bat FC, that's at Shinde, that's in Mufulira. And we have Indeni versus City of Lusaka, that's at Indeni. Ndola and Mpulungo Hebe versus Kitwe United, and Kafue Eagles versus Kafue Celtic. These are some of the games, Augustine, that we have that's in the national division. Which fixture excites you here?
I think the most exciting fixture from on paper is the 13 hours kickoff, Mutondo Stars against Zesco Malaiti. These are two sides that are chasing promotion. They are in those top 4 brackets. Zesco Malaiti, probably, even if they win promotion, they won't be promoted to the Super League. But Mutondo Stars look like very, very serious contenders to try and qualify for the Super League. They've got Titus Chansa in their top scorer. He's a very, very good left footer. I think he's a dead ball specialist, and he might just be one of those players that will turn up and try and help Mutondo try and get a result away at Unilas. It's very, very difficult to beat Zesco Malaiti there. They have got a very, very tight defense. Zesco Malaiti, they have got one of the meanest defense in the league. Actually, these two teams going head to head, Mutondo and Zesco Malaiti, are one of the 4 teams with the meanest defense in the league. So you do not expect a lot of goals in this encounter. And another interesting encounter is Bats against Mighty Mfulira Wanderers. Robert Tembo has gone to Bats. He's trying to revive their chances of surviving the drop. Is going to Mfulira to play Mighty Mfulira Wanderers, who have been dropping points recently. They need to get their act right, Mighty Mfulira Wanderers, because they are needed. They are needed in the Super League, and they cannot drop points like this and lose this opportunity of winning promotion, because the last time around they lost the chance to qualify to the Super League on the final day of the season when Nanchanga Rangers won promotion. This time around they look like the team that was not just going to be promoted, but a team which was going to win the league title. But Trident have taken over the log, and Mighty Mfulira Wanderers have been dropping points. They need to try and pick maximum points this afternoon against Bats to try and revive their chances of winning the league title and winning promotion.
For now, we'll just go on a very, very short break as we get back and take a look at the other games that are being played across the world.
On Monday, 27th February 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, Mr. Xavier Chishimba, President of UPP.
What you are saying is, we in the UPP, if we want to fight against corruption, we must separate, as a matter of agency, policy formulation from implementation. Right now we have line ministries making policies, implementing policies. It is wrong.
As they discuss governance, corruption, justice, and economy.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
We had some interesting fixtures in terms of the UEFA Champions League game, where we saw so I don't know if you would say some disappointing results, Augustine, where we saw results that a lot of people didn't expect somehow. I would say we had Napoli playing host to Eintracht Frankfurt hosting Napoli, and Napoli managed to win by 2-0. And we had Liverpool, who gave us a shock of a result that a lot of people didn't expect, where they were beaten at home by Real Madrid by 5-2. And on Wednesday, we had Inter Milan, who hosted Porto, and Inter Milan managed to beat Porto by 1-0. And we had RB Leipzig hosting Manchester City, and the game ended in a 1-1 draw. A result, Augustine, that a lot of people didn't expect. I think some results, I would say, the Manchester City game and the Liverpool game.
Yeah, I think it was always seen as an opportunity for revenge for Liverpool. Every time they meet Real Madrid, they always think this is now our opportunity to revenge what happened in the final a couple of years ago. But it wasn't to be. if you go up 2-0 in the European tie, I think it's difficult for teams to come back from there. Liverpool got the lead through Darwin Núñez, and Salah extended the lead. And you would have thought at that point it was curtains for Real Madrid, but they showed like last season that they have one of the biggest teams when it comes to comeback. They are the comeback kings in Europe. They did that against Chelsea, they did it against PSG and against Man City, and this time around against Real Madrid. A couple of individual errors from the goalkeeper Alisson Becker, he could have done better, and individual brilliance probably from Vinicius Jr. He tormented that Liverpool backline, and you could see that Liverpool, the biggest problem currently is central area. I think their midfield is being overrun too easily by teams. How does a 35-year-old Luka Modric run through your midfield like that? And I think it's very, very disappointing for Liverpool and their fans. 5-2 at Anfield. I think at 3-2, they could have realized that the game was running away from them. Close shop so that you have hope for the next game as you go to the Santiago Bernabeu. But this time around, Madrid look like they are the first team to go through to the quarterfinals because I do not see a way how Liverpool will come back unless something dramatic happens at the Bernabeu. And the second, we saw Victor Osimhen doing what Victor Osimhen does best, and that score goals. And he went to Eintracht Frankfurt. They were down to 10 men. And Napoli got a very, very comfortable result. They look like another team which will not just go to the quarterfinals but will challenge this Champions League because they are very, very strong. Napoli under Sampaoli. Man City, was it a disappointing result at Leipzig? I don't think so, because if you look across the 16 teams that are in the Champions League, Leipzig are one of the teams that are enjoying good form currently. Man City, they were missing the services of Kevin De Bruyne through illness, and it was very, very difficult for them to try and penetrate and create chances against a Leipzig side. I think Man City got a very good result away from home. Now they will take it to the Etihad to try and finish the encounter. Inter Milan, narrow win against FC Porto. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to go to the Dragao. The Dragao Stadium is one of the toughest places in Europe, and Inter Milan will be going there. They've got Lautaro Martinez, Romelu Lukaku, but it will be very difficult for them. They'll need to try and go there and put up a very, very good performance again. And I think these were very, very good Champions League ties. They were balanced in some ways, and we saw good teams winning the games.
Let's look at one of the biggest games, Augustine. We can't shy away and run away from it. One of the biggest games. A lot of people say the final of the Europa, where we saw Manchester City hosting Barcelona at Old Trafford, a game that had a lot of streamed even in the first game compared to all the games that were played in the UEFA Champions League, and we saw it coming to an end. That was on Thursday when Manchester United managed to provide a wonderful result by beating Barcelona by 2-1.
Yeah, Manchester United's first win over Barcelona since 2008. I think if you look at the performance of the two sides at the Camp Nou, you would sense that the the advantage has just swung in Manchester United's way. Coming to Old Trafford in front of 75,000 people, you are always going to back Manchester United to try and get something out of the game. Schoolboy mistake by Bruno Fernandes. Baude, I think he was tormenting the United right side of defense. He gave them a lot of problems, won a penalty, which was well dispatched by Robert Lewandowski. Then at halftime, Erik ten Hag, reading the game, he rang the changes, brought in Antony on the right-hand side to try and give them the right balance. Vegas was doing nothing in the first half, was withdrawn, and United controlled the game from then up to the end, won it by 2-1 with goals from the two Brazilians in Fred and Anthony Santos. I think the Barcelona performance, I think it was very, very disappointing on the night. You could see that they missed the young Gavi and Pedri, and probably Ousmane Dembele. He gives them something different. Dembele is always someone who is willing to pick the ball and run at oppositions. He is willing to eliminate the oppositions, but Rafinha wasn't doing that in that encounter. And probably they looked like a better side when Ferran Torres came in. He was providing them with the much needed width on the right, a little bit of creating chances and danger, but United stood firm and qualified to the round of 16 of the Europa.
So going forward, I think there will be more exciting fixtures that will come our way. But today, Augustine, let's just take a look at some of the games that are being played that's in the English Premier League as well as other leagues. We've got Everton that will be hosting Aston Villa at 17 hours. We've got Leeds United hosting Southampton. We've got Leicester City hosting Arsenal, and we've got West Ham hosting Nottingham Forest. We've got Bournemouth hosting Manchester City and Crystal Palace hosting Liverpool. Let's look at the Leicester game, Augustine. Leicester will be hosting the log leaders, who is Arsenal. Yeah,
the Gunners, I think in their last encounter against Aston Villa, they had to win it at the death, and that's the champions' mentality. Mikel Arteta's boys showed character, coming back 2 times and leveling it and then winning it at the very end, and it looked like it was a comfortable result after Emilio Martinez had gone for the corner, then Martinelli finished in an empty net. This encounter against Leicester is a Leicester side who are very, very much struggling. They were beat by Manchester United in the previous encounter. We have seen our own person, Daka, was sitting on the bench. He didn't come on at Old Trafford. Probably he may get an opportunity against Arsenal. Kelechi Iheanacho has been their best player with Maddison in the last games, but they need to try and get their act right because they are closer to that relegation zone. They are in that conversation, and Brendan Rodgers, the owners have shown a lot of faith. He needs to start repaying them with the results, but against Arsenal, it's very, very difficult. It looks like an Arsenal win.
Another interesting encounter, Augustine, is Bournemouth hosting Manchester City, a Manchester City that is coming from a draw in the UEFA Champions League, and they are looking forward to give Arsenal pressure in terms of the log.
Bournemouth against City, I think, is going to be one-way traffic at the Vitalities. I think City played against Nottingham Forest, dropped 2 points. Very, very disappointing for Man City to go to play Nottingham Forest and drop points. But this time around, Pep Guardiola will be pushing his boys to try and get a result against Bournemouth, and I feel City will be just too strong for Bournemouth.
Crystal Palace versus Liverpool.
Interesting encounter. I think this encounter at some point it decided the league title when it ended 3-3 at the Selhurst Park. It always produces sparks. Liverpool are not in a good position right now. They are just fresh from being disappointed by Real Madrid. It was a hiding at Anfield. Now they are going to the Selhurst Park. Patrick Vieira will fancy his chances to try and get a result against a Liverpool side who are not in very, very good form at the moment. Probably this one will end in a draw.
Yeah, and in Spain we've got some interesting games, Augustine. We've got Espanyol hosting Mallorca. We've got Cadiz hosting Rayo Vallecano. We've got Real Madrid hosting Atletico Madrid, and we've got Valencia hosting Real Sociedad. But let's look at the derby, Augustine. Madrid hosting Madrid, and that's Real Madrid hosting Atletico Madrid.
It always goes one way. I think it's always the white guys that win it. Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone, they'll go to the Santiago Bernabeu and try and defend for their lives and try and hit Real Madrid on the counter. They'll try and take advantages of set pieces. Barcelona are leading the table with 8 points. Real Madrid cannot afford to drop more points. I think Vinicius Jr. showed very, very good form against Liverpool. Karim Benzema is back scoring, and I feel Real Madrid will win this by 3-1 because Atletico Madrid do not have what it takes at the Bernabeu.
We are seeing Valencia hosting Real Sociedad, Augustine, and when we look at Real Sociedad, they are a team that are just sitting in 3rd position. If I'm not mistaken, they are sitting in 3rd position with 43 points. It's a Real Sociedad team that no one expected to be at this position, and we didn't expect Valencia to be struggling in relegation.
If you look at Real Sociedad, they sold their main man in Isak to Newcastle, and you would have thought they would struggle, but they have held their own. I think they've got intelligent players like David Silva. His experience, he knows how to handle pressure, and he's been carrying that team forward. Valencia have been struggling. They sacked Gattuso. They need to try and get their act right if they need to stay in La Liga. And Real Sociedad side, which is just was resting the entire week. They were not involved in the European competitions. They joined in the last 16, and coming up against a struggling Valencia. Probably Sociedad will win this one.
Just some of the games in the Italian league before we just come to the end. We've got Empoli playing against Napoli. A Napoli side, Augustine, that's not stopping anytime soon. And we've got Lecce hosting Sassuolo. Lecce, where our very own Lamek Banda plays, and we saw him contributing when they managed to win the last game that he played. He played about 60, 70 minutes somewhere there. And it's another game, Augustine, that is of interest. We are seeing a Lecce team that is being separated from Sassuolo by only 3 points.
At the start of the league, Lecce were struggling. They are struggling for points. They are struggling to get their first win. And now they look like a very, very good side. They look very, very strong. Lamek Banda, he's getting a lot of game time. They went to Atalanta and got that shock of a result by beating Atalanta by 2-1. This time around, they're coming up against Sassuolo side, which is very, very unpredictable. Sassuolo are one of those teams that play beautiful football in Serie A. They play good attacking football. And Lecce will see this game to try and get away from that relegation zone as far as possible, because they are already in safe land, but they need to try and keep winning games and going forward and finishing mid-table probably. And I see Lecce beating Sassuolo by 2-1. It's going to be a cracker of a match.
Just some of the comments that we have on our Facebook page. That's Justin Mazala, who is saying the Zambia can't win unless they improve, but with that kind of performance, forget it. And we've got Grace Musonda here, who is saying unless they invite the defense for our lady national team, then they can beat Tunisia. Otherwise, it's a no. It's something that people are doubting, Augustine, to say we can't manage to palangashet Tunisia. But anyway, due to time, Augustine, your final remarks as we come to the end of the show.
Thank you very much, Amos. A big thanks to the entire production team for making this possible, and a big thanks to all our viewers out there for finding time to watch this program. We always appreciate your efforts and your support, and we'd like to urge you to trek to the nearest stadium and support Bola Yapazedi. Go and see the finest talent, so that when we're talking Zambian football, when we're talking the national team, you have got names to try and throw into the dice. And I would like to wish the young Chipolopolo all the very best as they take on Tunisia. I think the nation is behind you. We hope you get the result and probably have chance to qualify to the quarterfinals. But all in all, it's been a very, very good show. We appreciate you for your support, and thank you. See you next week.
Our very own Camnet Stars will be playing today. That's the first Division 2 Lusaka division, and we've got Camnet Stars who will be hosting Kabide. That's today, Saturday the 25th of February, and the game is being played at 15 hours, and venue is Kablonga Boys High School grounds. That's the home ground of Camnet Stars. You can go there and let's support our boys, for they are the local national team. And tomorrow, first Division 4 developmental, we've got our very own Camnet Stars will be traveling to Matero, where they'll face Matero United at 15 hours, and the venue is Matero Stadium. Let's be able to support our lads. And this is where we've come to the end of the show. I've been your host, Amos, aka Amore, and on behalf of the whole entire production team, Isaac upstairs and amazing Amanda, who are assisting us in terms of what you see on your screens. It's bye-bye. See you next week. But stay glued for Amazing Atamanda is coming on your screens with the weekly gospel show.